Hello and welcome to Game 2 of the evening here for the Coalition League Silver League Best of 3 between Rawr, Yordlez and HypE. Really looking forward to this. My name is Victor and casting with me this evening is Random Minion Caster.
Hello everyone, super hyped for this game 2. Game 1 was absolutely
How are you doing, Random Minion?
I'm doing great and I'm super hyped here for game 2 between Yordlez and HypE Esports. Game 1 was an absolute bloodbath. I'm looking forward to more of the same.
Yeah, Rawr just really scaled up with that damage on the Veigar. As you mentioned, the Rejected King just needed to play a little bit more passive on that Cogmore, really find his footing in the team fight. Just got caught out a little bit too much, gave up too much objective controls with that dragon stacking. As soon as you get those tanks with that dragon stacking coming out, with that Ocean Soul, just so much healing, so much potential to stay in and engage on these team fights. And the top lane, Mr. Sorix as well, just having such a strong game on that set into Garen's Neptune Rises. So we'll see about the adjustments coming in here for game number 2 now. Again, see that Veigar on Rawr. Do you mention anything else?
Yeah, and I mean, in terms, it's quite a different draft here for both teams. They've kept the, they've actually stolen the Leona on the side of HypE Esports, taking the Leona for Fluff Get Smashed. So that's going to be a huge difference in how that bot lane plays out. They had a passive Yuumi sort of enchanter support, and now they're going with the aggressive engaged tank. And, you know, on the side of, on Yordlez, their carries are still the same. It's still the Veigar Aphelios, and that worked really well for them. But other than that, they changed everything up. The top lane, I like the Mr. Sorix on Yorick. He is really strong in lane, and giving him that sort of split push lane dominant champion, I think just plays into his strength. And I'm just finding the Mel fight questionable here from HypE Esports. I'm going to assume that's a jungle Mel fight and top lane Cho'Gath for Neptune Rises. And, you know, it's just, I'm not a fan of Malphite jungle. He's really slow and doesn't have good ganks either pre-6. So that means that HypE is going to have to try and survive early without much jungle pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely more like that sort of level 6 Nocturne ability. Really need to just scale up into the game. Could see AP Malphite jungle, actually. That's sort of been rising in prevalence, been around for a while. Definitely looking to scale up into the game with that AP. You can really start one-shotting people. Throw that on top of a Mega Inferno Bond and a Culling as well, and you can definitely single out a target.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm expecting, that sort of AoE. They've got, again, really good AoE from the side of HypE Esports. They've got the Leona Solar Flare. They've got the Malphite Unstoppable Force. You can follow that up for an easy rupture from Cho'Gath, and then, as you said, the bomb coming from Tommy Peppers anywhere on the map, the AoE. So I'm expecting to see a lot of team fights coming out of the side of HypE Esports, but that's in the condition they can get to that point. I'm looking at Rawr Yordlez, and they've got strong lanes. Morgana is often considered a counter to Leona there, and Oddlander did fairly well in lane last game, so I'm expecting to see him do pretty decently in lane as well. And Mr. Sorix is just going to split push. He's not going to let them get those sort of five-man team fights they're looking for. He's going to keep drawing pressure to that side, and Zach is absolutely great at disrupting those sort of organized team fights, and that will let Duero sort of run around like he did last game, the baby cage, disrupting the fight further, the burst, and just drawing those fights out. So I think if HypE Esports can get to the mid game ahead or even, that's where they need to shine. But they need to get there without dying too hard before that in the early game.
Yeah, I think a little bit of the onus is on the Rejected King and Fluff get smashed in the bottom lane to try and just hold their own, try and get Lucian maybe a little bit of advantage in that lane so you can just scale up a little bit quicker. As we all know about that Aphelios late game, the AoE coming out of that champion, backed up by those tank stats that Nowoski can come in there with that Zac and Guerrero just firing so much damage like he did in game number 1. Could be a very lethal combo here for Yordlez.
Definitely, and one thing I also want to touch on is just the bans here as well. The Sejuani ban, I think, is definitely on point from HypE Esports, because Nowitzki looked like it was just a point and click. He was nailing Rejected King every fight, and so taking that out, I think, is huge for them. Putting Rejected King on a mobile ADC, also a big deal to make sure he doesn't get caught. And the set ban from for Mr. Sorix is definitely going to be a big thing as well, though I'm not sure a Yorick is any better, really.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of trading one split pusher for another there, Random Minion. But we'll be loading up into the Rift now, guys. Looking forward to it. Game number 2 here of the night. Really exciting stuff for Yordlez and HypE Esports. Can HypE Esports bring it back here in game number 2 as Yordlez looking for their second win of the season?
Yeah, and one thing to notice, we are running blocks of 3. This is not a best of 3, so there is a game 3 after this, regardless who wins. But naturally, no team wants to go 0-2, sorry, if they can help it. So definitely looking to try and pull themselves back out of the hole that HypE Esports have found themselves in.
It's a little bit of a 5-man stack along the river here, just not wanting to get too much on the ticket. Could have quite a nice invader if Winter did want to go for that bind. Could really try and sync that up with the cage from Dorero, but going to lane with that cage, Dorero Event Horizon would be difficult just to stack up his passive stacks in the early game and have any sort of advantage over Tommy Peppers, who played a very good game number 1, Tommy Peppers.
Yeah, he did. Like in lane, he held Dorero down really well, and he got some really good 4 or 5 man command shockwaves in those team fights, but just too late there for his team, because if everybody else is sort of falling apart, there's not much you can do. And last game we did see Euros invade early as a 5, but this time they don't have the Leona. I think they're respecting the Leona pick from the side of HypE Esports. They don't want to invade into that, not to mention a Ziggs as well, who can start really any of his abilities in lane and not suffer too much at level 1, and all of them are useful in those early game team fights.
Yeah, so both teams starting on the bottom side of the river for their buffs respectively, going to be moving up to that top wave. You could expect that Yorick to have the push early on, and definitely looking for that level 2. If Fluff gets smashed, can secure that, they could really go in for this level 2 spouse fight. Already got the wave pushing a little bit. Rejected King just has to have the confidence to just keep this wave pushed, get that level 2 first, and allow Fluff get smashed to get into the game.
And they're trying to shove as fast as they can. I think right now they do have a slight CS lead, but they're taking so much poke doing it. All landers landing so much poke onto Rejected King as well as Winter that if they keep taking this, even if they hit level 2 first, they might end up going down if they're not careful.
You see the positioning there. Fluff gets smashed, not really stepping forward. King taking all of the poke already. They're going to finally hit that level 2 mark, but they don't want to go in. The Leona's already called it off. The wave's now going to be crashing against them, which means they can get frozen here. This is a really bad spot for Fluff to get smashed to be in, as you can't really Xenoblade into this, if they can just back out to the tower pretty quickly.
And it's a question of at silver whether or not they'll know to freeze the wave. It looks like they're already starting to break the freeze. And Morgana also as a support, one of the harder supports to sort of freeze a wave with, because if she misplaces that Tormented Soil, it does tend to push the wave out quite a bit as well. So it looks like they're just going to bounce it back here, and the freeze will likely break in that bot lane after this.
So they didn't hold the freeze, as you said. Have that push in the top lane already. Mr. Soros now needs to be careful, but we did mention it is a Malphite in the jungle here. Can't really do too much. It's a little bit of slows. They're going to be very reliant on that knockup coming out of Neptune Rises. If he can land that Rupture, will be a potential gank opportunity, but apart from that, very difficult to shut down this Mr. Soros in the top lane.
Instead, there was the gank bot lane from Nowitzki, which you kind of expect. It's a Zac. He wants to get those ganks early, but it was actually initiated by Fluff. Got the Zenith Blade onto Winter there, and Winter didn't have the Black Shield available, so ended up taking a lot of damage there initially.
So Rejected King just has to be a little bit careful now, as the wave is going to get crashed against him. Just to collect a lot of this. Dorero in the mid lane. Tommy Peppers just trading back and forward. You do have barrier on the side of Tommy Peppers, so he does have that summoner advantage if he wants to press his point.
Yeah, and I think it's still fairly even here, because Tommy Peppers does have to be careful. The burst from Veigar can be extremely shocking, and it can catch a lot of people by surprise. They're only level 4 right now, so no Primordial Burst available for that Veigar yet. But if you're too low when that Veigar hits 6, he can just flash on you and burst you right away, and there's really nothing you can do. Not much counterplay other than being careful.
Mr. Sorix actually tanking a lot of minions up into the top lane. Found a good trade, but so much minion return damage. Protected Kin also so low that Fluff gets smashed. Can't really go in anymore, as they can just turn on the Lucian. The Zenith Blade goes in, but automatically Orlander forces the flash out of the other ADC. Now they're going on to Flush. Gets smashed as he's just retreating and gets rooted up there by Orlander, and they're just charging on. Can't do anything in the bottom lane here.
It's questionable targeting, it looks like, across the map. Like top lane, we have Mr. Sarux going on Neptune, ignoring the minions, killing him. Bot lane, you had that, and top lane, a gang coming out.
Yeah, Zac finds a knock up here onto Neptune Rises. Could have to. He's already burnt his flash over, traded for Mr. Sorix, and first blood will go over to Nowitzki.
Yeah, 2 flashes blown there to secure that kill, but it's still first blood, and It's lucky, I think, for the side of HypE Esports that didn't go over to Mr. Sarx, because if Mr. Sarx gets that first blood, I think he's going to just make that lane that much more oppressive.
Fortunately, the wave finally crashing down to the bottom lane means Rejected King can pick up a lot of this farm back, come even already back with that Vampiric Scepter, so looking for that play of the Rune King fairly early on. Mr. Sorix now level 6, just pushing ever relentlessly up into that top lane. Going to collect that wave there from Neptune Rises, so not a lot of XP lost on the map from that advantage gain. But here comes Malphite down to the bottom lane. Already the exhaust onto the Rejected King as the peel back here is strong on the side of Winter and Orlando. They'll push forward.
Yeah, I think that was a really good engage, and something they needed to do in that bot lane there. They have all their summoners blown, and they're sort of getting shoved in. The CS is pretty even, though. Rejected King doing really well to keep the CS up in that bot lane, despite the pressure that they did put down. But this is what they need to do. They need to continue getting aggressive, continue to pressure there, keep that Black Shield off cooldown so that they can get those engages and the damage down.
We just saw the buying go wide there with the Rejected King punishing relentlessly onto Winter 07. Does have Zac in the area though, so needs to be careful. Gonna get swept out. Nowatzki may be looking for something, but do see the health bars very, very low. He comes over the wall. Malphite is here as well, just looking for that skull. He's on a ward, so they know his whereabouts.
Yeah, and since it's top lane though, where a ton of action is going down, Neptune might go down here.
Yeah, Mr. Sorix just charges it down, and now gets secured over into the top lane. Mr. Sorix with that Sheen just charging relentlessly. AP Shogath as well. Lost Chapter just looking to scale up with that AP, but it does mean that he doesn't have that defenses. We already mentioned that Mr. Sorix, such a strong split pusher already in the game.
And this is my worry here for HypE Esports. They were doing so well up to this point. You know, like they just need to sort of go even into the mid lane, into the mid game, pardon me, where Rings comes online at level 6. You get the Solar Flare to go with it from Leona, and suddenly the bot side becomes an absolute nightmare to team fight in. Dragon Control quite easily goes over to HypE Esports if they get it right. But again, they had to get out of the laning phase well, and Mr. Starks is already starting to take over this top lane. There's not much of a CS discrepancy, but gold-wise, we're starting to see about 700 gold discrepancy, and we can see that he's just abusing Neptune right now. And honestly, I'm not sure AP Cho was necessarily the right decision against the Yorick.
Well, yeah, it probably does mean that we'll have to see that Cinder Hulk coming out of Renix. We also have a back timing issue over onto the side of HypE. That means Nowatzki is already on this Infernal Dragon. Going to be able to get secured pretty easily as the bot lane got caught napping on the other side.
Yeah, and that back timing is really unfortunate. They had the vision on it too, so they kind of knew they had the scuttle, so they should have had the advantage there, but they didn't.
Oh. Maiden's up in the top lane already, and another kill there for Mr. Sorix. He's just showing his dominance in the top lane.
And that Sheen's chunking for like 20% of Neptune's health every time it goes down. So, like, if that's the way the trades are going down right now, Neptune can only take about 5 whacks with that shovel.
Yeah, Fluff gets smashed. Actually takes a tower shot now. He needs to be a little bit careful. Stuns up Winter. Black Shield down. Traded with a root there onto the side of Fluff gets smashed.
Now the teleport coming down from Neptune Rises. I'm not sure he wants to do that. He's taking a lot.
Tower diving in the bot lane as well. It's all popping off as the top lane's gonna kills again. But in the bottom lane, the culling on the back end of it. Trading support for support. Here comes the Veigar though. He's looking to punish the Rejected King. He's gonna fall. It's just a matter of when. A flash forward for the AD carry. Orlando says, I want that. I want the gold, and he'll go 2-0.
And I think that's really patient, good play from Duero. They're not using the Primordial Burst. He could have easily just stolen it at any point there as soon as that Meteor landed, but he held it off. Will have it available for the next fight, and that could very well be in the mid lane that the next fight breaks out. So I think very good, very patient play, and you do want Outlander to get sort of a hit there, because Veigar can scale off just farming and stacking, but Aphelios, you want him up as far as he can, and he's not been having a good time in lane either. So this kill will help him purchase and get a good advantage.
Mr. Sorix is out of mana, but he doesn't care. He's just relentlessly pushing over to this top wave. That's giving a big window here over to the side of Nowatzki. He's taken the Drake. Now he's looking for the Rift. It goes very, very low. Renix, where are you on the map? You need to get involved in this game right now. He is level 6, so we're looking for that unstoppable force. Where do you think that's going to go, random minion?
Honestly, at this point, I think he should just shove it to the bot lane or to the mid lane. He should just sacrifice the top lane because Neptune Rises is not going to come back. Even if you unstoppable Syrinx, there's a risk he just turns around with the Maiden and he gets a double kill. So I think you sacrifice the top lane, look mid, look bot, and try and get a kill.
Yeah, Zach's not sacrificing the top lane, burning the flash out. Neptune Rises. Now Let's Bounce comes out as well. Can't quite find the kill with the feast. Gonna be on cooldown now, has no health to be able to back away, chugs the potions as well, but the flash over! Mr. Syrinx finds it yet again!
Yeah, and that exactly is the concern. The way Neptune is right now, he's 0-5-0. He's down about 2,000 gold at the 11-minute mark. That's absolutely massive, almost half the gold values of Mr. Syrinx. That top lane is a wash.
Maybe see, actually we do see Solar Flare down to the bottom lane, the Black Shield off cooldown, but the minion lane is not where Leona wants it. We've said this already. You want to be able to contest, you want to be able to go in, and it only means that you can go into the tower here. So nice freezing onto the side of Yordlez means that the aggression coming out of this Leona and Lucia doesn't really matter. Stunned into the mid lane, Tommy Peppers needs to be careful, still has that barrier, but charging down with a rift into the top. We've already taken one tower.
Yeah, and at this point, you know, with that outer turret gone in the top lane, this is when Mr. Syrinx becomes vulnerable. He's in an extended lane. He's really far up. And I think at this point, you just send multiple people ganking, but mid lane.
Yeah, tanking the tower there to the detriment of Rawr. Couldn't even finish off the kill. Means that it'll get traded back onto Tommy Peppers, so that's a nice little pickup, a little bit of mitigation here for HypE Esports, as they need a winning lane right now, as Mr. Syrinx has just taken over this game. He's taken one tower, now he's taken a second, and he is just marching into the base at 12 minutes into the game. Finds another cage onto Renix. He's level 7 to level 10, gonna have to unstoppable force, maybe defensively, just walking back, and no one can hold this man to account.
Yeah, this is as you said, somebody needs to come up here and kill Mr. Syrinx, hold him to account. He's got a 500 gold bounty. That's the way back into the game here. And honestly, losing the inner turret on the top lane was not worth it. They can sack any other lane's outer turret to make it worth, and it would have been a better trade than losing that inner turret. They should have rotated the bot lane up, maybe the mid lane up. Just gank the man. He's horrifically overextended, and the vision up there is not great either.
Let's bounce into the bottom lane, but the wave isn't in a good place yet again. No follow-up there from Winter for a bind, and that'll slow it down. But they're just looking for positioning for the second rate coming up. That's the prize here for Nowitzki. They know that they have a strong top laner who has that Trinity Force so strong in this side lane. He's going to come back to that. So they don't have TP on Neptune Rises as well. So second rate going over yet again to Yordlez.
Yeah, normally I'm not a huge fan of early Mountain Drakes here because there really isn't that much resistance to multiply. But actually, right now, I think it's going to be really bad for HypE Esports.
Bind lands, the root's going to follow there for Orlando. They're just charging in. Reinhardt goes for that unstoppable force, but not a lot of backup. But it's finally arrived. Rejected King has to flash away as it's been exhausted up. Reinhardt's in the back end of it, trying to get onto Nowitzki, but he's still got his passive. He doesn't care. Another root comes out of Orlando, and that'll be a double kill going over to Nowitzki.
You know, Rukter, I think we can safely say now we're in the mid game. 14 minutes, the turrets are down the top lane. You know, I think we can safely say we're in the mid game now, and unfortunately HypE Esports did not make it here even.
Yeah, we said we wanted a strong lane out of the Rejected King, and Fluff gets smashed. They didn't quite have the lane positioning for that. They got ganked a few times from Nowitzki, and they've just shut it down. And with this winning top lane, now they're winning this bottom lane, they're winning the dragon, stacking, and they can just push on relentlessly into this game. 6k gold up, 14 minutes. This is very difficult. It's taking a 2v1 on the tower. Mr. Syrinx goes on to Rejected King, gets one. Can he get out? He's going to take a tower shot. That goes down to the shutdown to Tommy Peppers with that Mega Inferno Bomb in the mid lane.
And this is exactly what they needed to do. It doesn't matter that they sacrificed Rejected King. That was a huge bounty on going over the way of Tommy Peppers, because Mr. Syrinx was godlike at the point. 7-0. So shut the man down. It doesn't matter if you did sacrifice someone for it. Just get the gold off of him and onto your team. But they should have done this 5 minutes ago. And now it's a little bit too late, and they're starting to lose things across the map. They lost the bot lane turret because they have to send so many people just to deal with Mr. Syrinx. That's 5 people collapsing on him to take him down.
Yeah, you kind of don't want to push top anymore with him. You want to go down to that bottom lane. You want to try and secure that. Rift is going to be spawning very soon as a knockup comes down to Neptune Rises. Level 9. Let's bounce. And Rawr finds his second kill of the game.
It's just barely enough mana to get that last Primordial Burst down, but he does manage to get it down. And suddenly Neptune is now 0-8-0. He's more than half of his team's deaths right now. The man just needs to find a safe lane, go sit in a little bit, soak up some EXP, soak up some farm, because you're just so far behind right now, you can't help the rest of your team. And I am looking for both teams, Roy, to rotate their top laners to that bot lane. Or basically just send Mr. Starks, as he said, somewhere else. Bot lane's the great place to send him right now. He's got teleport. He can rejoin the rest of the team if they want to go for Baron. But he's really strong. Use him to drag people around. And they sent him mid lane instead.
Yeah, charging onto the mid lane, flashing forward onto the Rejected King. He's going to survive. Black Shield is on. The bind blitz under the tower, but Mr. Sorux doesn't care. He's just going forward and tanking a tower shot there for Mr. Winter. The maiden gets popped as well. It's more minions. It's more push coming out. Really nice unstoppable force on the two. And the Zenith Blade forward. It shuts it down. And they find a window back into the game. HypE Esports shows up.
That's exactly what the doctor ordered for HypE Esports. They're getting a catch. They didn't even lose a turret, didn't lose a person, got the double kill there. Granted, there's no more bounty on Mr. Starux, but still, getting him off the map is a win right now.
Yeah, big shutdowns come over onto that. We do have that GLP now finished, as you said, from Neptune Rises, going for that Glacial build. Rift Herald going over yet again. Nowatzki is all about these objectives in the river right now. He's taken 4-0 away from the side of HypE Esports. So really good pushing. They'll be able to get to this soul potentially if they can get a couple more drakes onto the map. Ocean Soul it will be. That'll coming up in a minute and a half. They'll be looking for vision around this bottom side.
Can you imagine if the game does run long enough and Rawr Yordlez get Ocean Soul, a Zac with those regenerations, Mr. Starux on that, Yorwick with that regeneration. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. So HypE Esports needs to be careful. They can't keep giving up these drakes for free here. I understand they give one more if they have to, but giving up one more puts their backs up against the wall where they'll have to decide whether they want to trade Baron or Soul later on.
And I mean, a big thing with these sort of items, I see Blade of the Rune King for the Rejected King. That's kind of like that early game item. You can go Black Cleaver as well for just a little bit more stacking onto that. But you're really looking to get a lead out of that. You're more hitting that 2-item power spike rather than stacking up that crit for that 3-4 item power spike. So where do they find themselves and how do you think that they can impact the game as Neptune Rises going to get blown up? Jiroro flashing forward as well. He's looking for a bit more damage, but he's just standing in the dark matter. And now they're going forward yet again. Zac's in there. Nowatzki, no time to chit-chat as they're just all invading. Yordlez pushing forward, getting another. Orlando just firing into Flush Get Smashed. We get the unstoppable force. That's into one, but it's just the passive of Zac. Now they can charge forward. They can defend this. Orlando pushing. Tommy Peppers, does he have a little bit more damage? Finds one bomb. Can't find another as the Black Shield comes through onto Orlando, and they just push them away. Zac lives, and the dragon is now spawning.
That was so unfortunate, and that was it looked a bit like a 4v5, but it was effectively a 4v4. Neptune just got caught out right away, instantly taken out. His biggest contribution to that fight was taking the Primordial Burst away from Duero. And, you know, Mr. Starks is just free to split push, and we saw him take yet another turret, because that was effectively a 4v4. He didn't need to show up. If he had shown up, they might have won that even more comprehensively, but still, they didn't lose a single person in that. They are now at Soul Point with Ocean Drake, and suddenly, you know, HypE Esports' back is right up against that wall. And you're asking me before that fight started, like, what are they going to do? Where do they look? Well, right now, they just need to Soul out.
2v1 into the top lane, but Mr. Sorek says, I will take those odds. I'll push on. Now he's onto the support, just charging down 4 levels of the environment. Mega Inferno Bomb, but that doesn't stop him. A little bit more damage. The Zenith Blades come down. One more Warzone. It takes a 4-man party up in the top lane to stop Mr. Sorek, and it just doesn't matter. He's taken 2 with him.
Yeah, you need to bring bigger numbers now. Before, maybe you could get 2-on-1s back in the laning phase, but the moment that first start went down, you needed at least 3. We saw 5 the last time take him down with 1 casualty, and now sending 2 after him, you're just feeding him free kills here. And honestly, I actually think the Blade of the Rune King for Rejected King works well, and I think it is the right build at this moment to try and focus. He just needs raw power right now, as soon as he can get it, to try and take Mrs. Surux down. it gives him the ability to kite a little better. So I think that was the right call. But the issue now is just the rest of the team. The tanks aren't tanky enough. They're melting down before Tommy Peppers and Rejected King can damage off. And I think Tommy Peppers has been doing work in this game.
Yordlez going in yet again, bounce onto 2, forces the flash out of the 80 carry, Blair the Moon pop just for the slow, just looking for the little bit of space, the collie back onto it as well, and he'll secure it. The Rejected King played that fight very finely indeed. Now they're pushing forward though, the rift into the mid, crashes into the tower, no defense, but here comes the unstoppable force, the engagement, the Mega Inferno Bomb goes wide, and now that means Fluff gets smashed. Just dodging out of the bind. Orlando on the front line has that Black Shield, just looking to push aggressively for this rift. The re-engage with the Solar Flare doesn't find anything. Neptune Rises caught up into the mix. Mr. Sorix is now into the back line. He's pushing forward, but Orlando's overstretched. Taken down by the support. Flush gets smashed. Retreated back onto Mr. Sorix, and yet again, HypE Esports find a window.
And with that, HypE Esports has crawled back further out the hole. There's only about a 4.3 thousand gold difference here when it was even wider before this. So really good mechanical play from the side of HypE Esports. But the start to that fight was frankly a mess. Their communications are not together. Rings went in with the Unstoppable Force, had no follow-up there. There wasn't a Solar Flare to follow up. The Ziggs bomb came out late. But you know what? For now, they take these wins. They have to.
Rawr just sinks his teeth into the Rejected King. Now that means the support doesn't have help. Unstoppable Force is not on cooldown. That means Rinks can't do too much. Has gone for that Cinderhulk. Does have that tank stats. But Tommy Peppers takes a massive bit of burst there from Rawr. He has the flash. He has the primordial burst if he wants to try and take a kill off the map. They're looking for the Baron buff though. Nowatzki's already started that up. We do have the 80 carry. Orlando coming in there as well. The damage with the Triforce coming to match. It's just going to be a 5-man party over to the Baron buff. Maiden proc as well. Just for the damage. Just for the increased potential to steal this away. Runnick's going to have to flash over. Unstoppable Force still has about 15 more seconds of cooldown to go. 2k on the Baron. 1k and it's down over onto the side of Rawr Yordlez, and now they can push mid with that tower down. They can push top as well. Nowatzki finds a pick, but he can't quite get anything as they're too far away. 0-10-1. What happened in this top lane to Neptune Rises?
Just Mr. Sorix. That's what happened. Unattended Mr. Sorix. Oh, great pick.
Tommy Peppers actually finds a really nice Mega Inferno Bomb this time over onto the support win, so that'll shut down this Baron push a little bit. They potentially have numbers here in the mid lane as well. Fluff gets smashed, can't really go in too much. He's at a third health as well. We have the split push coming out of Mr. Sorix. He'll be pushing that up slowly. The engagement for Nowatzki, he wants this. He wants the mismatch fight regardless, and that might be to the detriment. Orlando's getting burst in the back line. Now that means he's in trouble. The Rejected King is so low, but he'll continue going forward. Guerrero finds one. That'll be over onto Renix, and the split push continues there from Mr. Sorix.
Does Nowitzki have a grudge against the Rejected King? All game, we've seen him just dive that backline. He just wants Rejected King. He doesn't care about the rest of the fight. We saw it again here. That initiate, he went real deep there.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Sorix now has this wave. Rupture not going to find anything. They can just slowly push this out as well. The Maiden just tanking up the tower. Rupture yet again, but he doesn't really care about the damage from this AP. Cho'Gath, the tower goes down. He's going to need backup now. Where is it? They're all at the dragon buff. They're at the ocean here. That means that no help's coming. Finally, Renix backs. But that's the jungler. That means that they're exposed onto the back end. And he can get this regardless in the 2v1. He's still got mana. The cage comes into Renix. The Rupture is there for the slow. Here comes the backup. Mega Inferno Bomb. Tanking it up as a Rejected King has come. But that means that they've given up the pressure over onto the Soul. And that should go over to Rawr Yordlez.
And they're going to give the Ocean, as you said, the Ocean Soul over to the side of Yordlez. And that just makes me question if we'll see Mr. Sorix die ever again. Because in that fight, we already saw how long it took to kill him. The Death Zan's doing work for him right now. Now, imagine the heals too. That's just going to be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, a little bit of a 1v1 in the bot lane, but Rawr has the levels, has the advantage, has that AP stacking. Can't quite find the AP as we've got another fight on our hands yet again. Going into the back line, Renix is on the front line. The knock-ups are there for Windsor. pushed in the exhaust down onto Neptune Rises yet again as Rawr firing back. Orlando finally comes in from the mid lane as well to reach this bot lane party, but it's going all the way onto the side of Yordlez as they're just smashing into the base yet again.
It's kind of a case here where we've got superior mechanical play coming out of HypE Esports. Like, they're actually winning the mechanical fights in the 1v1s, the 2v2s. But they're just making bad decisions on who they're targeting and who they're communicating with. And Yordlez is...
Nice solar flare onto the mid lane here. Orlando has to flash away, but it doesn't matter. Traded over onto the side of the Rejected King as he also burns his flash just for the gap close. Nice bit of a stun to Rawr trying to contest this. Tommy Peppers now has to run. Already burned that barrier. Nowitzki's now very deep. Mega Inferno bomb, but this is a tanky Zac. The support is there. The jungler is too. The top laner, Neptune Rises, is in the fray. They're going back in. Fluffy, you knew you want this, mate. He's got to instantly retreat against this. The minion now can get aggro onto the tower, into the backline. Giroud's been caught. He's been caught, but he's taken one down with him. And now he's got backup of the team. He's just face tanking into melee, and it's a double kill over to Mr. Sorok, who's having a spectacular game. 12 and 5. He's got the death dance, he's got the damage, and he's got the health and sustain from this Ocean Soul as well. They'll push into the base now, and Yordlez will go 2 up in this series.
Yeah, and I mean, we kind of saw this coming when Mr. Sorok started really taking off here. But props to HypE Esports. They did manage to stay into the game quite well, actually, right up to the end. But frankly, this was just a game of throws towards the end. Both teams seemed a little off balance, a little having a bit of issues with their communication. They're not quite sure when to go in, where to be, and a lot of people just getting caught and picked individually. Props to Duero, though. 8-1-7, his final scoreline, playing out of his mind positionally.
Yeah, he had an exceedingly good game. Mr. Sorok as well. We already mentioned that into the top lane. Do you want to mention something about like cookie cutter builds over the side of Neptune Rises? Obviously, you want that synergy with that Glacial Augment. Really wanted to go Twin Shadows. But when you're this far behind, when you're 2 and 12, just stacking all that AP just means you're so vulnerable in the back end of it. Didn't have any armor when he was facing like quite a strong Affilio scaling up with that hyper scaling in the game. And versus Mr. Sorok in the side lane, just couldn't contest at all. No healing reduction picked up on Neptune Rises. So potentially a little bit of a word for the wise of the build pass there, looking into it. Rinks also couldn't establish enough in that early game, gambling for that level 6. But we saw that he had that level 6, but went into the top lane, had to use it defensively just to run away, and couldn't quite find purchase in the game for his team. Had a couple of clutch plays to the middle, but at the end of the day, it was all about Yordlez taking that 2-0.
Yeah, definitely there. And as you mentioned, the build path, like 0 armor whatsoever. That was Merc Treads he built against Mr. Sorok when his CC is not reduced at all by tenacity. That's a cage. It's terrain. It won't go away because you built boots. You'd have been better off building the Ninja Tabbies, as you've mentioned there. And I think it also came down to just who pulls the trigger faster. When we did see the side of HypE Esports pull the trigger with the Unstoppable Force, the Soul of Flare, even if they don't necessarily chain everything together perfectly, if they're proactive, they won the fights. But we see them losing a lot of fights just getting caught out a lot of times, not being together. And you look at what Yordlez brought to the table. Their engages had to often come out from Nowitzki just throwing himself in there. And Nowitzki often overextended. So if you were just proactive about it, you could have beat them. And they did beat them, but ultimately it's a slow death. They lost all the dragons once again. Good job getting the Herald this time, though. But they lost basically all the dragons, and so they just had no control on the map. They had poor vision control as well, and I think that's something that they'll need to fix going into the rest of the season here.
Yeah, exactly. Random minicaster. Well, that'll be us signing off for game number 2. Don't think they actually played a game number 3, so I hope we'll...
No, yeah, I'm just getting
information
that they did not play game 3.
As we mentioned previously. Thank you so much for tuning in here. My name has been Ruktor, and casting with me this evening has been Random Minicaster. Thank you so much, guys, for participating and watching the Coalition League here at Season 2 Silver League.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks, everyone. And we will also be casting the other Silver game later today at 5 p.m. Eastern, and that will be between Pendulum Gaming and Glacial Omen. So please tune in then if you want to watch that game, and we hope to see all of you guys soon.